This is Cybersecurity Distilled with Andy Bennett.
Hi, and thank you for joining us for our next episode of Cybersecurity Distilled, a show designed to break down the complex problems, concepts, and technologies facing cybersecurity professionals today while exploring the complex flavors of our favorite distilled spirits. I'm your host, Andy Bennett, and my day job, I'm the CISO of Apollo Information Systems, and this is a production of Apollo Information Systems. With me today is my friend, probationary friend, Jim Motes, CISO of GameStop. Jim, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Andy.
Anything that the audience out there should know about you right up front?
That you're the probationary friend.
That I'm the probationary friend. That's right.
I think that's an important, clarification we got to make right up front.
Right up front, yes. Just so everybody knows, I've been on probation for years, but asking him to be on my podcast really made sure that I had to go see the board.
No, I've got nothing else to add, Andy. You did great.
Okay, there you go. Well, let's just jump into it then. So this is about having a drink while we distill some complex questions facing cybersecurity today, or just talking trash about anything we really want to talk about, because it's kind of free flowing. But I'm going to start with, what are you drinking?
Totally forgot.
It was good. It was Dalmore something.
Dalmore, a 15-year-old Dalmore.
Yeah. A 15-year-old Dalmore. Perfect.
Thank
You're
you.
Welcome. I'm glad you told me already. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
Right?
So,
I mean, from there to here, it was like, it's gone.
and I'm drinking a Balvenie 21 today because I know we both like Balvenie, and I figured the bottle is starting to get low, so we might as well drop it to the bottom maybe today. We'll see. So
this was a Christmas gift from coworkers.
Yeah, mine was a Christmas gift from former coworkers as well. So there you go.
Nice.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I have known Jim for a while now, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. And the first thing I want to throw out that we can talk about today is we've had lots of conversations about blockchain and cryptocurrency and market tips and all kinds of stuff. But I've seen a resurgence, or at least I'm hearing a lot of people talking about a resurgence of blockchain as a panacea solution to all kinds of things. What do you think blockchain is good for, and what is it not good for?
Wow.
I know, only the easy questions.
So, I think blockchain's fascinating. I've been working on some certifications in blockchain for myself just to learn more about it. I find that, the ability to trace transactions on the blockchain is amazing when you consider how long people assume that everything on the blockchain was anonymous. There's anonymity that's available to a degree, but I think when you look at blockchain, it provides a auditable trail that is unlike anything I've ever seen. It just doesn't go away, and it's really something that you can trust once you've seen it. I mean, it's not going to change tomorrow. I like that. But as for how it can be used, what it can be used for, I think that there are things out there we haven't even thought of yet that blockchain could be used for.
So I agree with you completely about one of the cool things about it is that once it's happened, it's always there. But one of the bad things about it, for some of the applications I've seen, is that once it happens, it's always there. And that anonymity, especially for some of the implementations, is definitely not a thing. So one of the use cases, tell me what you think about this. One of the use cases I threw out as when I was in government, if somebody was pitching blockchain as the panacea for all government records and making sure the integrity of the records never changed and all that kind of stuff. And so I asked, what about when government makes a mistake? There are two specific types of mistakes or things that need to go away in government that if we use blockchain, physically couldn't go away. One is record expungements, especially in the case of a wrongful prosecution where it needs to literally go away. And another one is death certificates. What if you were inappropriately, accidentally declared dead, which happens terrifyingly more often than people would think? What do you think about that?
Well, there are processes in place to go back and modify the blockchain. They're extremely difficult. It requires a lot of effort on the parts of multiple people. There, it's a consensus-based, solution, but so it's not that it can't be fixed, but again, because of the requirement for consensus, it's got to be something everyone's going to agree on. The majority of users are going to agree on. So I don't think you're trapped, with a mistake. But I do like the idea that if somebody makes a mistake that maybe it's not that material, that it needs to be removed, that the blockchain needs to be modified, which again, that's not going to happen easily, right? But if someone does make a mistake, like the government, for instance, right? I think it's a good idea that it's still there. I don't think we need to cover up all of our mistakes, right?
Sure. Well, and government mistakes I'm fine with, but I also don't want somebody, the criminal record one is the one that I always was really focused on, because the insinuation of a criminal activity alone is enough to hurt people sometimes. Now, the death certificate one, that's just actually more funny than anything, because you could get a certificate of resurrection all of a sudden, right? That would be humorous. And you can work with that. Yeah, I died this one time, but here's my certificate of I'm actually alive. But the criminal record thing, that one always concerned me a lot.
I don't see that ending up there.
Well, and I hope it doesn't. And that was the folks, again, they were pitching it as a panacea, and it was years ago now.
Right.
And they were like, all public records. So criminal records? And they said, of course. And that's where the conversation went.
Yeah, I can see that. I look at it more as it's a great financial tool. It's a there's different ways to look at it. It's a ledger, right?
Yep.
And then what you do with it, I think when you look at it from a financial perspective, there's a lot of opportunity there. When you start adding new things onto it, different things that it wasn't designed to do, I think it really depends on the thing itself, right? And then just like smart contracts, they're very cool as long as they're secure. Mm-hmm. And the people that wrote them think about things outside of the functionality of it, privacy, things like that, that need to be considered other than just, is it functional? But I think that there's a huge amount of potential there. I mean, you look at closing on a house, it would be so much easier if it was on the blockchain, right?
Right.
You go in and you execute and it's done. And you don't have all that documentation to sign and to go through. Plus, you'd be able to follow the ownership of that house, for generations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think smart contracts have a lot of potential, and I also agree with every one of the concerns you raised in terms of doing it right with the forethought for what should be secured, what needs to be kept private, and how to protect those things. But isn't that the story of almost the reason we even have jobs? Because so many people built things in advance to do a function, but didn't focus on how it should be secured.
Yeah, I've always I've always thought of engineers and security. The relationship is like this, it's like when you get a bunch of engineers together, it's like a group of guys who are drinking beer and talking about hockey. And then someone's screaming, well, let's get a game up, right? And they put on their skates, they suit up, and they're running outside to play hockey. And the security guy's the one going, hey, hold on, guys, it's July. Let's make sure that the ice is frozen, the water's frozen. There's ice out there first, and we're the guys making sure there's ice there, and sometimes, they don't invite us to let us know they're going to play hockey.
They make it to the water before us.
Take them out of the lake. Exactly.
That is my new favorite analogy. I am going to rip that off viciously.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. I might give you some credit.
Fair.
So what do you think the biggest buzzword, like the one that has lost all meaning, is in security right now? And it goes through cycles, right? What do you think the biggest one is?
Oh my God. You mean it's lost meaning? No.
Yes, as in everybody's using it and nobody knows what it means anymore.
Christ. It's most of them.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, that's a tough one, Andy. You know, I've been around for a long time. I've heard a lot of buzzwords. I mean, you remember the rainbow books?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
No one uses that anymore. Doesn't mean
Nope.
let's see. I mean, you talking about the last year or the last 2 decades?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go. I want both now. What's the biggest buzzword in cybersecurity of all time? And what's the worst one in the last year?
Let's see. That's a tough one. Now you're making me think of stuff. I'm trying to keep this clean, right? Because I'm a joy to be around and I want people to really know about the other. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this isn't a buzzword, but this is a pet peeve of mine, right? It's one, I've gotten more API security email in the last 3 months than I've gotten in the last 5 years. That's one thing. And so when I see API security, I just delete it now. And I figure if I need to talk to somebody, I'll go to somebody I know. 2, the other buzzword that's driving me nuts is artificial intelligence.
Ooh,
about every 5th email I get is a new, AI security solution, AI this, AI that. And I'm just thinking, first of all, most of it's not AI. And secondly, most of it's not going to be an out of the box. You can run this like it is. It's going to be an admin nightmare. It's going to work partially. And I really don't want to buy somebody's broken toy.
I love it. I wasn't thinking about AI, but I agree now. I like your answer. I was thinking about zero trust when I asked the question.
I still think that's got some run,
It hasn't been fully abused yet, or we're going to pull it out and people are going to actually pay attention.
It gets abused a lot, but I still think it's valuable, right? Mm-hmm. And I think part of it's because most of us haven't got it down right yet. We're still doing it because zero trust in its purest sense isn't always possible, right?
Sure.
I mean, for security, if this was the perfect secure world, we'd have zero trust, but you'd never answer your front door. Phone would go through like 7 different, checks before you picked up a phone call. But I think zero trust still has some run in it. And I think for me, it's more like what's useless today because of overuse, not necessarily because it's been abused a lot. Like zero trust does get abused.
Yeah, it does.
But AI,
although the architecture seems to be waning, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think SASE, is that how they pronounce it? SASE.
That is. Yeah. Have I told you what I think happened with that one? I think and Gartner, if you're out there and you happen to see this, please send somebody to me to correct the record. I would love to have you on and talk about SASE and any other words you've ever come up with, because I think some analysts got around, were doing exactly what we're doing, probably at the same time of day we're doing it. And they were like, hey, how can we get everybody in security and IT to use the word SASE?
Yeah.
And then they came up with something that could be pronounced SASE. And they have a list of problems they're always trying to solve with their architectures and research and stuff. And so I think that's what happened. I think they started with the acronym and then assigned it to a problem set that they could find an acronym that could be pronounced that way.
We need to do that. We need to come up with a word we want everyone to use. Maybe not today, but
not today. I don't think we should do that live.
Yeah, exactly. Because then they're going to know, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I look at SASE and I think, okay, is that a fancy word for network segmentation?
It almost feels that way, right?
Right. Yeah. And then, or is it a network segmentation and zero trust combination? When you talk to vendors and they use these terms like SOAR. SOAR is a Gartner created word, right?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it actually works for me still, right? I still like it. And everyone seems to understand what it is.
Yeah, no, that one, you're right. I never even I don't think of SOAR as a buzzword. I think of it as a category, just like SIM.
Yeah. But now I've got all these guys hitting me with RPA emails, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, that's kind of what we're doing with SOAR.
If you're doing it right, you are.
Yeah. So I really don't need all this RPA stuff because We're doing RPA.
I don't really see RPA as a security tool anyway. Like RPA in its purest form, since we're going to fall back on in its purest form, I think of RPA as a process tool. So one of the applications, I used to run a large team at a government agency 2 lives ago, where we had a lot of paperwork come in, and we had entire teams dedicated to deciphering paperwork that could have been easily digitized and processed with RPA. That's what I think of when I think of RPA, and how to take the drudgery out so you can focus on the ones that are actual problems, like any form. Yeah, go ahead.
To be fair, SOAR does some of that.
Totally.
RPA within SOAR, right? So like if you've got an IP address that's banging on your network, rather than having one of your expensive security analysts check it out, we can use Demisto to do that.
Yep.
Right. And so we're using RPA to do that mundane task within the SOAR framework, right? That we built with the playbooks. But so I think it's a piece of that.
I don't know why in my brain they're separate though, and I think it's because the RPA folks are so broad when they come in and they say RPA.
Oh yeah, they want to automate.
Whereas SOAR is focused and even the creation of the routines, right? To break apart the framework here. Even the creation of the routines in a SOAR platform, the creation of the routines is done from within a perspective, context, and tool set that is amenable to cybersecurity. Whereas in an RPA platform, sometimes they've got GUIs, sometimes they've got weird data sources, all types, image scraping, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know most of them. I mean, we selected our partner a long time ago. I called it Demisto. They renamed it, and I've already forgotten the name. Starts with a C.
It does. It does.
I wish people would stop renaming crap, right? So
let's talk about that. That is a huge
about that. Microsoft, okay? Microsoft Compliance Manager is now called Purview. Microsoft Advanced eDiscovery is now called Premium. And it's like, what the hell, Microsoft? I've had to mind map our Microsoft, E5 security capabilities because it's so freaking complex. And on top of that, Microsoft keeps moving it and renaming it. Like, hey, Bill, give me a freaking break, will you? You're killing me.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, they didn't even buy products and bolt them on and then change the name. They just decided to shift it around in their own portfolio and change the name.
And don't get me wrong, I think Microsoft E5 licenses, if you've got it and you're not maximizing the security in your Microsoft portfolio, I think you're probably, I'm just going to say, you're kind of an idiot, because it's really, I've met guys who are snobs and they're like, I'm not using that. I'm going to go buy this instead. I feel like, if you work for a public company, maybe you should, get the most value out of everything that your stockholders are already paying for, instead of going out and buying something else because you think it's a little better. Microsoft spent a lot of money on their security, and they've
$1 billion a year.
They've built some great capability in there, but you've got to dig to find it. And once you find it and you understand how it's built, make a mind map and keep playing on updating that mind map about once a month, because they're going to move shit on you. And so if you track that and you put that in play, you get more value out of that E5 license than you're ever. And by the way, I don't work for Microsoft. I don't have Microsoft stock, but you're going to get more value out of that Microsoft E5 license than you're ever going to get if you just use it for Office. The security is amazing compared to what, you go back 7 years ago, I was ready to throw Microsoft out of the building because the security around their Office 365 offering was horrible. And now I think every CISO ought to be looking at the E5 licensing and partner with infrastructure to say, let's get this so we can get all these security add-ons for free.
Well, and that shouldn't be a difficult partnership. And I'm thinking out loud. I also don't have any Microsoft stock and I don't work for Microsoft, but I'm thinking out loud here, and the added benefits that the infrastructure side, the communication side, even the marketing and production side get from having E5, and the extra applications that like Power BI, that you get default access to that were otherwise premium, and that the Teams phones features you get access to, and all kinds. We've been rationalizing our stack too, and so these are a spreadsheet that are probably open in this monitor over here right now, and so that actually shouldn't be that big of a lift in terms of creating a partnership. And we always talk about how security and IT need to play nice together and learn to work together. This is one of those opportunities to really, really look at that, because it's not a security point solution or an IT point solution.
Right.
It's an enterprise solution.
Yeah, we're lucky. I was able to get a global admin license, which is not normal for a CISO in the Microsoft platform. And then I've been able to set up a lot of the security myself as we were learning it, and then work with the infrastructure team to say, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's the policies we want to change, or we have changed, depending on the day of the week, what's going on. But they've been really good about that, because it's been such a fast moving train. And I think that's probably one of those things that if you were look at your budget, I found a lot of redundancies last time I really checked and looked at what Microsoft offered and what we had. And I was like, we can get rid of this, this, and this, and this, and turn this on in Microsoft. And we actually found in one case, not only did we save a lot of money by turning it on Microsoft, but Microsoft was a much better solution than the solution we were paying for.
There you go.
It's a no-brainer for you. And if it's a wash, it's still a no-brainer for you. If the Microsoft solution maybe is 10% less than what you're paying for, it really depends on what it is that you're paying for and how important that particular security control is to your organization and the threat that it brings with it if you've got a 10% gap. But I just think that there needs to be more financial analysis done, rather than just looking at it and going, well, it's Microsoft, it's not a security tool. I think you need to look at Microsoft now as a security tool that comes with an office
Productivity suite.
Yeah, a productivity suite with it. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's been brilliant the way they've been moving forward in that.
Well, and they're investing more than almost any other company in the world in that security capability. And, and they have it.
And this is unfair to vendors, but I look at a vendor that comes in and wants to talk to me and they go, well, we're offering this service. And I look at what's Microsoft doing in that area, because if Microsoft's already doing something in that area and they're developing it, why buy that service? Because they're going to be basically unimportant to me in the very near future. And I'm contracting for something that's going to be a redundancy. Now, again, you've got to make sure Microsoft's going to deliver. Right. Any vendor that you deal with, you got to make sure that they've got something new they're going to deliver. I've seen it with Microsoft and Google. They'll launch something and then they'll abandon it. We've all seen that. And you don't want to be sitting there, betting the house on an abandoned technology. So you need to make sure they're committing to it, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And so what's your standard for determining that they're committing? Just for anybody out there who's listening going, oh crap, maybe they're right. I should look at all this stuff. How can we help somebody determine when to commit?
I'm looking at the maturity of the offering. Have they invested in it? Or is it if it's a trial, and they want me to trial it, I might play with it, but I'm not going to bet the house on that. I'm also looking at global, because I learned this earlier in my career with like IoT, Microsoft's IoT solutions, right? They didn't have the same offering in the US as they had in Europe and China. And they had no roadmap to roll out the same offering in China that they did in Europe and the US. And so if you're a global company and you're rolling something out globally, you need to be very sure that you're going to get the same capability across that Microsoft platform everywhere. And if you can't, then maybe that's not the right solution for you. So I look at that. Are they actually rolling it out globally? And I asked them for that global roadmap, because they don't always demonstrate that, but you can get access to it if you talk to the right person.
Well, the first rule of business is you don't get what you don't ask for. So you have to remember to ask.
That's true. Same thing at home.
Yep.
And at the grocery store.
And everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. You don't get what you don't ask for. That's a fact. Unless you're just the luckiest person alive, which I am not.
No.
No.
I don't buy lottery tickets because, life. Right?
I do buy lottery tickets, but it's because the joke I make with the cashier every time I buy one is, here's my donation to Texas education.
Yeah, I used to call lottery tickets my retirement plan, or I would tell my wife I'm applying for the Texas lottery to be a winner, and
Right.
They keep denying my application, so I'm going to keep going back. Then I just realized there's too many of us. I've got a better shot of just being a good CISO, really.
I really like that you just compared your odds of being a good CISO to slightly better than the lottery.
I didn't say slightly. I said better. Don't put words on. Don't put words in my mouth, Andy. Jesus.
-2 points at the probation board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I Googled because of our conversation here. I Googled cybersecurity buzzwords currently, and the first article was from CISO Online, and it said 11 buzzwords you should stop using now.
Yeah.
And number 4 was AI powered.
Yeah.
So what do you think number 1 was? It's not zero trust.
They should stop using now.
Buzzwords, cybersecurity buzzwords you should stop using now.
You know what? You're making me work too hard. You tell me the word and I'll give you my opinion. How about
ransomware?
That?
It says ransomware is the buzzword.
No, you cannot. No. Look, if I had to rate all the stuff that I worry about, hardly anything keeps me awake at night. Ransomware keeps me awake at night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I'm exceptionally worried about it right now. It's because it is a multi-billion-dollar business. And there's such an incentive on the other side for them to be successful. And they've got funding where I may not have funding, right? So, I put a lot of effort into ransomware prevention, recovery, things like that, right? Because that really is the world today. I don't understand that. I think, you know what? I think you need to find another survey and you need to ditch that one. And you need to stop looking up junk surveys on the internet.
They've got really good SEO. It was the first result.
SEO, right? Now there's a buzzword, right?
There you go.
Yeah, that's been around for a long time.
It has. So zero trust was number 2 on the BS survey, which we already know to BS.
Right.
Whitelist and blacklist was next. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't care.
I mean, those are technical terms. Are people really abusing them as buzzwords?
Right. Yeah, I don't really get that.
AI powered security is definitely a buzzword.
That's gotta go. Yeah.
That's just bullshit. Cyber 9/11. Have you heard that used a lot with you lately?
I've never heard that used at all.
Mm-mm.
Wait, let's go back to AI.
Go for it.
Until a robot walks up to me, introduces itself, and tells me it found vulnerabilities on my network, I'm not buying the whole AI platform. Okay.
Perfect. All right. So you guys all heard it first. What the standard is? Yeah. That's the new standard for selling anything AI powered in security.
Right. Through the Turing test, it's got to say, "Hey Jim, my name is Bob the robot, and I just found a vulnerability in your network. Oh, and I fixed it for you." That's AI.
Where do I send my bill? Don't forget that part.
Well, preferably not. It would be, a government sponsor, it's free for all the businesses. But
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Just in case CISO's listening or watching, check that out. That's an idea. The next one is digital transformation.
That's not really a security.
No, I don't think so either.
We get sucked into that, as rightly we should, because, hey, that's where the scenario is about the skating, about the hockey, because they'll want to go out and do things, and you're like, hey, wait, we need ice before you do that. Wait a minute, the first one was, what are they saying ransomware should be?
Oh, they're saying stop using it. These are the buzzwords you should stop using.
Really?
Yeah.
Stop using ransomware.
And this list is absolute crap. Yeah.
Wait, maybe you need to, your Google machine may be broke.
Well, I'm going to hit back and we're going to look at what's next.
Maybe you need to find enough.
And so I'll burn down the list. Digital transformation, SIM. You should stop using the word SIM. Another. It's a tool. It's the name of the
I
tool.
don't know how you're gonna
Bullshit.
get rid of that. Yeah.
People are the weakest link.
Okay, they still are.
Yeah.
That's what-
Cybersecurity awareness. Apparently, that's a buzzword.
But cybersecurity awareness has a larger ROI because people are the weakest link.
And literally has its own month.
Yeah, you know what? Whoever wrote that, I'm not actually. I don't want to call them. I don't want to say they're stupid because that's not nice.
I mean, I can
Just say
use,
it's a stupid article.
I can use their name. They're from the UK.
No, let's not be rude to our brethren across the water. Let's just say that's a stupid article. They probably wrote that while they were drinking.
You know what? Let's hope they were. They were.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no doubt.
Cyber kill chain. You should stop using cyber kill chain.
I love that term.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
term is
like,
so freaking cool. Kill chain, right?
and you get good pictures.
You do
You
always.
do.
Yeah.
And then you should stop using the word hacker. And the only reason I didn't shut the list down and go back already is because what do you think about the word hacker? Or hack when you talk about it in lieu of attack?
I call them attackers.
Mhm.
I mean, hacker. I've got hackers that work for me.
Right.
They're not bad guys, right? Yeah, hacker could go, but it's also I don't know. It's hard to get rid of a word like that because it's universally known.
It is universally known, and it's got. I mean, there's a movie called Hackers.
They're excellent movie, by the way. Better than Sneakers, I think.
I agree completely.
And for you kids out there, Google that and then go watch them. Jesus.
Glossary.
So are you using Google correctly there?
I mean, I just typed in cybersecurity buzzwords.
Okay.
I think they're using SEO, that old buzzword, correctly, and they have countered me.
Yeah.
Yep. 25 cybersecurity terms that everybody should know. The most overused buzzwords in cybersecurity. Here you go. From
Let's
Security
bring it up.
Magazine.
Okay.
We're going to that one. Now, this article sucks too. It's all graphs.
Okay. Graphs.
Yeah.
How are graphs words?
It's like, so which one of the following they did a survey to figure out their results, and they just posted graphs of their results. Which one of the following do you think is the single biggest technology threat to application security?
I would say the developers. Oops.
The survey. Oh, now it's Cyber Family Feud. The survey agrees.
Well then.
But they didn't phrase it exactly the same way. But if I was the judge, which I am in this case, I would agree with you that it's the growing number and complexity of applications is the number one threat.
Yeah, it's still the developers.
It's the developers, yeah.
Look, security is basically fixing IT and engineering's problem. Something they do. We do a lot of that work.
Well, I think it stems from.
But they got a different function.
Mm-hmm. And I think that I was going to go the same place. It comes from the fact that whenever a new project starts, it's running lean and fast and has to show results.
Right. Yeah.
And they're focused on function, sometimes form, but never security, because enabling security up front, building it in and taking the time to design against the security principles that may be applicable to your given thing.
Yeah.
Slows you down. And if you were given, whatever cash you were given and 6 months to deliver a working product, you're going to focus on making sure you delivered a working product, not one that had all the security concerns and kinks ironed out.
Right.
So I agree completely.
I think our job is to get out of the way, secure them as they go the best we can. And then when they're ready, well, actually, let me rephrase that. When the time is right, we make sure that it's adequately secured. I mean, security can become an obstacle, and security can't become a thing in itself where that, unless you're a security company, that's all you care about.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you can't stop innovation. If you stop innovation, if you stagnate innovation, I think they lose they lose the momentum, and you're basically hurting the company. So it's a real real tight balance there.
So what do you do for a living? And I mean that in the you know what, I won't even hedge the question. I will now answer. I ask a lot of people this question who are CISOs, and they always say something, you know, I'm a CISO, I do security for a living. But my counter is something that I think speaks to the deficit that a lot of security people have, which is the answer should have been, I do whatever my company does for a living. In your case, you're in retail. In other people's cases, if you work for Ford Motor Company, I don't care if you do security, you make cars.
Yeah. I'm protecting revenue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not protecting the world.
Yep.
I'm protecting revenue, and I'm making sure that I'm enabling those people who generate that revenue to do what they do.
Enabling is the key there. Enabling them to securely conduct business. That's been a mantra I've been preaching for a long time that I don't think has ever caught on, probably because I'm the one saying it.
I think, I mean, you hear it a lot. So I think people know they're supposed to. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, yeah, I mean, I met a CISO once who was like, you know, our job is to protect the internet. Swear to God, that's what she said.
What?
Yeah. And her company asked me, what do you think about that? And I'd had a couple of drinks. I was like, no, you should fire her. Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. I felt kind of bad about that. But yeah,
Well, no.
hey, you know what? It was the right thing because her company's job was not to protect the internet, right? Her job was to protect the company, to make sure the company could operate legally and, you know, and to meet their contractual obligations, their regulatory obligations, and also securely. And there might be a window where they've got gaps in their security, as long as she's got a plan to fill those gaps once that function is completed. There's always something. There's never nothing.
What do you think the most number one for you neglected fundamental, cybersecurity fundamental is across the industry, or even in pockets where it's very stark? What's the most neglected thing out there that people should be doing and are not?
Besides CISO worship? I'm just saying, it feels like there's not enough adoration, you know? I told my boss, money and praise. Those are the things that motivate me. All right.
Can relate.
Yeah.
Can confirm.
All right. So let's back up. What'd you ask me again?
I asked you what is the most fundamental thing that is often neglected? I'm phrasing it differently, but it should be, it's something that everybody should be doing, but so many people are not.
It's the fundamentals, not just one thing. It's the basics, you know, everywhere.
Define basics, because I have a list. What's your list?
Password hygiene, right?
Yep.
And this isn't like my current situation. I'm just saying, in my history, my career.
Well, and I'm not talking about where you work, because you're a phenomenal CISO who deserves to be worshipped. But I am talking about other places and across the industry, and whether it's the CISO's fault or not.
Right.
What are people not doing? And I agree that it is the fundamentals. I was trying to pin you down on one thing, but
documentation, network documentation. Everywhere I've seen where I've gone into jobs in the past, it's always been like, well, I like to see how the network's laid out. Well, we got 17 tools and we're not really sure. And, you know, Bob quit, so we don't really know how that works. And where's the documentation for it? That's not security. Not to say security doesn't have those problems in some places. The other thing that I see fundamentally that is missing is I think we see more and more where training falls off in security teams. Not awareness and training for our end users, but for the security people themselves. Like, I think one of the most important things you need to do is train your team, and they need to understand every piece of technology that they manage. And if they don't, then you're just buying crap in a box that you're going to turn on and pray it works. You know?
I agree completely.
And pray, and, you know, like in the military, pray and spray, you know, it's not the best approach to anything ever. So I think that, that's a big fundamental. You've got to train security people, and you're not training them just to make sure they can do their job. You're training them for retention. Security people are technically curious. That's what makes us, I think, good security. Well, I say us, I'm including myself. There are better people than me, obviously, like 6 or 7 at least in the world. But so I've got guys on my team that are extremely curious. I train them because I want them to stay. If you give them training, they're going to stay usually because they want to learn, they want to do more. And I think we see that very basic necessity just gets eaten away by budgets. I will give up a security control before I give up training my security team.
That is fantastic. I couldn't agree more. I work very hard in my own team to invest in security training and training in general, right? It's not just training on like how does the SIM work or training for a certification like if it's a lower level person coming in without a security plus, getting them into that, or if it's a more senior person, supporting them in getting their CISM or CISSP or whatever it is that they're going to get. It's also training in the types of technologies we run into. And given what I do for a living, it's not just the technologies that support our internal shop, but the technologies that they're going to run into at most commonly at our customers. Right. It's super, super important. And when you work for a consulting or a services firm, you're going to run into crazy stuff. Yeah, can confirm, will not deny at all. Right. We run into everything, and it's a wild, wild world out there. And then you add on to that, I'm not going to bother Googling it now because it's obvious my Google is broken with that buzzword stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally broken. So I read an article a while back that said there's 3 reasons people leave security jobs for new security jobs or leave the field in general. And it is compensation, obvious, right? It is burnout because we're overworking them and we're not right sizing our staffing, and training because maybe they're getting paid well and maybe they're not burning out because they're getting forced to work 14-hour days, 5 days a week because we won't hire more people, but we never bothered to invest in them.
Yeah,
it's super important. Absolutely,
it's huge. Well, and let's go back to the burnout and talk about SOAR again. One thing we've done with SOAR is secure orchestration and automated response, right?
Yes.
We've automated a lot of look, I've got a cert that does not spend their time doing the mundane tasks that a cert typically does. That is automated. We've automated about 5 FTEs worth of work. So they're not doing the stuff that makes them quit. They're doing the interesting stuff. They're writing, code to link the APIs, to build new models. They're doing pen testing. They're doing threat hunting. They're doing the stuff I want them to do.
The fun stuff that adds the value above what can be tooled. Right.
And to my example earlier, I don't need them looking up IP addresses. The machine can do that. I don't need them sending an email to a user saying, hey, we detected malware on your system and we cleaned it and we need for you to do the following steps. The machine can do that. So by removing those mundane tasks, that allows me to give them higher level tasks to do. And then those higher level tasks often come with challenges. Like, everybody on my team went through ethical hacking training, a couple of years ago. Everybody, my people in governance and privacy as well, everybody got the training. The expectation wasn't they would all pass it. All but one did, but I didn't expect them all to pass it. But I wanted them to get that exposure. I want to keep exposing them to more and more that's cross-functional. And I think it is so critical you train them, but at the same time, use automation where you can to take things off their plate that don't matter. And if you do those 2 things, you might even be able to live with compensation challenges and retain your team.
Mm-hmm. Well, job satisfaction overcomes a lot of other deficits, and
Yeah, it
training
does. Yeah.
training is one of those things that these technically curious people uh, need for that satisfaction.
Right.
I have seen people leave super high paid jobs for a much lower paid job that provided them the satisfaction.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I'm going through my list of things I thought we might talk about. What's your favorite new technology?
Drones.
Drones.
Well, they're not really new, but
I mean,
Yeah.
they get better every day,
yeah.
but
I'm looking at buying a drone, but it's not really for security, just because I
Mhm.
think they're cool and I want to, buzz the neighborhood. But for security, you mean security? I mean, you weren't
I
really.
know I accept drones as the answer, but we can refine it to security. I love drones. When I was at the university, I had what I jokingly called my private Air Force, and we did all kinds of projects with them. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like the technology they got now where the drone will follow you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, I say now that may have been maybe 7 years old. I just haven't screwed with drones much. But I'm just looking at drones and thinking, I need a drone that'll follow me. It's sort of like a dog that doesn't need to go to the bathroom.
There you
Right.
go. There you
It'll
go. And
follow
takes
you around.
pictures.
Yeah. And when you're tired of it, you can send it home.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it stopping at the neighbor's house. So I'm really thinking a drone might replace my dogs.
No.
No.
Nobody can replace Bob.
Bob is so lucky he's not in the pound right now. Bob's got problems. But anyway, despite Bob's issues, no, my wife won't let me get rid of any of them.
No.
And yeah, they're family. They're not going anywhere. But having a drone trace them around the backyard, okay, that would be kind of fun.
Yes, I've done that too, and it is right up until you crash into the tree.
Yeah, then the dogs eat the drone.
Then the
Yeah.
dogs eat the drone. It's a predictable end to a always entertaining story.
Improvements in technology. I think it's critical. I look at back to Microsoft. They made more improvements in their e-discovery capability. And I really like that. I like especially when they don't come holding their hand out, like it's Halloween, trick or treat, give me something for this. And they're just saying, look what we did. And this is for you and it's free. I love that.
Yeah.
So when vendors do that, it's absolutely amazing because it's like, hey, you improved it and you didn't create an entire new segment over here that I have to pay for. Yeah, you talk about a pet peeve. That pisses me off like nothing.
I could not agree more. Go on.
And event-based pricing.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell are you thinking? Everyone's got a budget and you want to put a variable in the middle of my budget. You know what? I walk away from those. I'll go find a vendor that doesn't do that, because no matter how much I like your technology, if you're doing event-based pricing, I'm going to walk away from you. There's no value to me in having something that, let's say all of a sudden I'm the target of a massive DOS attack, right? Or just a lot of bot traffic suddenly, and you're going to charge me more on top of the pain and agony I'm going through in trying to mitigate that threat, right? It's just like, why are you punishing me when they're already making my life miserable? Why don't you be a partner? Why don't you just say, hey, we're going to provide this solution. It's going to do this. And it doesn't matter how many people attack you, because you only have one of these that we're protecting. You see what I mean?
I agree. I think the SIM vendors, I'll go ahead and say it, the SIM vendors are the worst offenders.
They are. They really are. And yeah, I'm just saying that they would never be probationary friends like you, Andy.
No, they would not.
No, they would not. No.
Yeah. It's not how friends and partners behave. It's predatory, because your events will spike if you're under attack.
Right. And then you get penalized for it.
Yeah. And when you already probably, your people probably work 24 hours a day if it was a serious incident. you may have identified a gap somewhere else that they managed to leverage that you now have to go close that hole. That's going to have time and cost implications. And then they're going to slip in a 1 month. And the ones that really get me are the ones where your highest month determines your usage bill.
Oh yeah, there's a special place in hell for those vendors.
Yeah, when it spikes momentarily or even
Yeah.
for a couple days and it skews the entire month to whatever the next air quotes tier is.
Right.
Yeah, that gets me.
I feel like CISOs need to band together and just say, no, I'm not going to pay that. I'm not going to pay for variable pricing models. Like, I've got a MSSP that was really great in working with me to say, we're not going to do that to you. I told them, I don't like that. They were like, well, we use Splunk. I said, no, I'm not going to use Splunk because Splunk has EPS.
Yep.
And so then they said, well, what if we did this and we put in Rapid7 in the cloud? And this is Hirschbeck, by the way. So Robert Hirschbeck, great guy, by the way, like him. Not saying we're buddies and he invites me to his house. So Robert, if you see this, we could be buddies. You could invite me to your house.
You could be a probationary friend. You might skip the line.
Robert, you could jump ahead of probationary friend. I mean, look, Andy's probationary. You could go ahead of that. But anyway, they were able to come up with a solution that didn't require, us to sign up for, events per second or anything like that, which worked for me because then I could budget, for what we needed. I could say, I've got this many devices that are feeding the SIM. Here's my budget, right? And if somebody wants to bring new devices on board, I can say, here's your incremental cost to do that. And it's great. It's utility-based pricing. I can do that all day long, but it's
predictable based on something you had control over.
Right.
And that's the part that gets me. You had control over it. And if it's your growth, not growth in attacker activity.
Right. So that's where I think the vendors need to go. And if the vendors don't get there, the vendors that don't get there, let me put it that way, I think they're going to price themselves out of the market. Here's the thing. If I walk away from your technology because you've got a pricing model like that and somebody else doesn't have that, it's going to be really hard for you to win me back down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's really hard for you to win me back, it's very hard for you to win back every other CISO like me. And I think we need to vote with our budgets to say this is not acceptable any longer. And here's the other thing that bugs me about that. These companies come in with these, and the prices are getting higher and higher for these security solutions, but we're not getting guarantees. Nobody's putting on paper.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, they're not assuming the liability. They want you to pay, sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year, no liability on their part, but you're assuming all that liability, and then you got insured on top of that. It's like, what are you doing for me? You give me something that, God forbid, you built it off some open source tool you found years ago. You slapped a pretty face on it, and that's what we have now because that's all there is. And I just think the market is wide open for people to come in and say, hey, here's a fair pricing model. We're either going to give you a really fair price, or we're going to give you this high price, but we're going to guarantee this product.
We'll stand behind our work.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody stands behind their work today. Except for us.
I try to stand behind everything I do, or I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, but just think about it. The one job where you do stand behind your work, you're a CISO. You get hacked, you're not a CISO. You're gone.
Right. Chief Scapegoat Officer is what your title turns to.
Oh, I like that. I really don't like that.
No, it's bad.
I mean, yeah, if I was on the other side of that fence, I'd like that, but not on this side of the fence. Yeah, I tell my wife all the time, they pay us well sometimes because of the risks we take. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's becoming, there's more and more risk, and we're not really getting that much support from the vendor community.
Yeah, well, it's transactional sales, not longitudinal partnership.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
Which is not the model that should be.
Right. And part of that too is, I mean, a lot of the sales that are made, like I'll sit down and talk to a vendor that I know, but it's based on the vendor's history with me. Like, what have you represented in the past? What kind of companies have you represented? And what's my relationship with you? And would I trust you with a handshake deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of them out there. There's not a million of them, and there's not a lot of them. There's a handful of them. It's actually, let's just say there's a conference room full of them, and that's about it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a shame that there's not more. It's okay to only be doing business with a conference room full because you only have so many things you need.
Right.
But it's a shame that you probably encompassed most of the population of people who fit the description, not just the people you do business with.
I find myself fascinating, Andy, and I think you are slightly fascinating. So if you put the two of us together, it's fascinating and a half, maybe.
Fascinating and a half. That, you know what? I'm going to post on LinkedIn right after this that I've determined that with some powers combined, stay tuned to find out, I am officially fascinating and a half.
Hey, I got to tell you this. I told my wife one time, I was meeting with Robert Hershevek, and she's like, why? And I said, because we're looking at becoming a customer of his. And she's like, but why is he coming to see you? I said, because I might be his customer. She goes, I get that, but he's on TV and you're not. Why is he coming to see you? And I was like, I'm kind of a big deal in security. You not get that? She's like, no, why is he coming to see you? I literally had to take a picture to prove I met with him.
That's fantastic.
No, it's sad. It's really sad.
My wife works in security, and she would say the same things to me sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't even say, do you know the things I've done? I say, but you know the things I've done. And on that highly cyber relevant topic and discourse, I feel like we're leaving cybersecurity distilled land and just entering Andy and Jim. So cheers, and thank you for joining me, my friend.
Cheers. See you
Probationary
later.
friend.
Probation. No, you're the probationary friend. I'm the friend. You're the Jesus. I don't even know why I do these things.
Cheers.
Cheers. See you later.